All right, welcome to StreamQuest. Here we are, another week down.
I'm rocking to the music, Ralph. Wait a minute. The syntho-pop.
Okay, it's cool, right?
Hey, everyone.
Yeah. Hi, Drew. Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi, Drew.
Hello.
This is the StreamQuest crew. We like to talk about some of the things we've watched for the past week. So I don't know. Let's start, John. What do you want to talk about
Strong
tonight?
stream, weak stream.
Yes.
Well, I want to talk about a bunch of stuff, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So first of all, I watched a lot of stuff this weekend. I watched the last Blockbuster.
Oh,
I watched it.
And
I liked it. I thought it was a little too much of the manager of the Blockbuster.
A little bit. True.
But I did enjoy it. Now I don't even think I had a Blockbuster card. Now I think about it. I was in local video rentals, but it was interesting. And it was kind of sad at the end when she wasn't sure if they were going to renew the license or not, and
Spoilers.
She got it renewed. Yeah, so I like that. So I appreciate that recommendation. I'm going to recommend something to you guys if you have not seen this already.
Did you get sentimental at all for VHS, or you just done? No.
No,
I had the opposite reaction. I'm starting to get VHS
I know, but
now.
I mean VHS. I mean, I was brought. Listen, we had a video recorder in 1980 when nobody had one.
Right.
So we were watching videos before anybody else. But you look at the quality. Like you got me that Laserdisc player, which when I had it hooked up before, it was like looking through a window. It was just so sharp. Well, when I hooked it up to my big TV, I was like, what the Christ is up with this picture?
Yeah.
I was like, I bought my Star Wars trilogy, the box set, the only version of the original films you can have, and I put it on the screen, and when that ship came across, I went, holy shit, that sucks.
It's not cool,
but
Yeah.
it was still very nostalgic to watch it on Laserdisc.
Yeah.
So, no, I had no...
I like that you
I'm
called me
glad-
and said, what are these black bars on the top and the bottom? I don't
No,
know.
that's not what I said. I go, I love the gigantic black bars on the top and bottom. I mean, it takes up 3/4 of the screen.
Did you watch the whole trilogy this weekend?
No, I couldn't watch it on Laserdisc.
Yeah, I would imagine it's pretty rough projected that big.
Well, and it has to
It
flip
is.
after an hour and a half.
It is.
Flip
And when
okay?
I have them all on Blu-ray. You can watch them on Disney Plus, and they look beautiful.
It's just
It was
something-
still hooking up that DVD player to my system and putting it in the cabinet, wiring it all up. I had to get a converter, and I even sent Ralph a picture of it.
bet.
It was just so cool to see that. And by the way, the Laserdisc player looked like it just came out of the box. It was beautiful till I saw the picture.
In
Anyway,
1986, came out of the... Yeah, I've told you
that's
guys.
right.
I've told you guys this. I actually now don't care what I watch anything on. I've lost that because when I started doing Laserdisc, it was completely about the quality of the picture.
you're right.
And of course, those days, it wasn't that hard to make the quality picture good because everything else looks so shitty.
Right.
And now I just don't care what I watch it on. I can watch it on a computer. I can watch it on my big TV. I get the same pleasure out of watching it that I would anywhere. So I know you guys kind of have the big setups and you're looking for the sound and all that. I've just lost that. It's just I can't keep up with it. That's part of it. It's like I just...
Yeah, but does it matter to you, like the difference in quality? Look, to me, it's the difference between a regular picture. You know how some of my DirecTV channels aren't high def.
Yeah.
And you compare it to high def, and I can't even watch it. It's like this big film in front of my
I know.
eyes.
No,
So
I'm
that
not-
matters
listen,
to me.
don't get me wrong.
Picture quality much more than sound.
I say this, but I'm watching high definition versions on whatever I'm watching.
Okay.
On, right.
Okay,
Now,
so-
the Laserdisc to me is just nostalgia, and it's just it's like collecting anything. I can't go through all the films and watch. I'd have to watch them for 2 years every day, like I guess Stephen King is doing. He's watching one movie a day now because he's got time. I'd have to watch one movie a day and go through
One
all
movie
these,
a day. That's it.
Well, that's what he's
Jeez.
doing.
What's he doing the rest
I don't know.
of the
Maybe
day?
he never watched films before. I read that. So anyway,
Well,
I'm sorry,
for
guys.
me-
What does that mean? He has time. Is he hasn't been
He hasn't
working
had
from
time
home
before?
for
You know,
30 years?
read the article.
He's not writing that.
All right, send it to me.
I have a huge Laserdisc collection that I had a cabinet built, and they've been in this cabinet down in my theater, and I have not watched a Laserdisc in probably maybe 15 years, if not more than that. So being able to look at some of these versions that you can't get anymore, even though the quality isn't great, I'm still looking forward to rewatching them. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I remember they were the original director's tracks were on Laserdisc.
Yes, that's right. And
the
supplemental material
commentaries and that kind of carried
But not
over.
only that, like the Star Wars had a huge documentary within that Laserdisc that was awesome.
Yeah, some of them really did a nice job with presentation.
But the other thing I watched, getting off the Laserdisc player in the last Blockbuster, do you guys remember the Dana Carvey show? It was in 1996. It was 8 episodes. No, it wasn't a talk show. It was a variety. It was a sketch show, and it ran for 8 episodes. They only aired 7 because it was produced by Robert Smigel from Saturday Night Live,
Okay.
and it was ABC had the show because they thought he was going to do Church Lady and Wayne's World and all this other stuff. Well, they went a completely different way. In fact, the show, it was the first show Stephen Colbert did, Steve Carell,
I was going to say there's
Louis
a skit they
C.K.,
do. Yeah.
Charlie
Yeah.
Kaufman. So this documentary is called, I want to make sure I say this right, Too Funny to Fail, The Life and Death of the Dana Carvey Show. It's a documentary,
Oh, wow.
and it is great. And what they talk about is how collectively they royally screwed up when they put this show on the air, and they deserve to get canceled. But the documentary is great. Like the first sketch of the show was Dana Carvey doing an impression of Bill Clinton breastfeeding animals. So he's got a fake front on him, a fake chest, and they bring animals out and milk's pouring out of it. This was the first sketch, and it followed Home Improvement, which is a nice family show.
Nice.
So ABC was like, what is this? And then they'd have a different sponsor every week. So it was Taco Bell, and then Taco Bell dumped them. Then it was Mug Root Beer dumped them. Then it was Mountain Dew. And they did this whole sketch about Mountain Dew. And he's got a glass of Mountain Dew. This is what the show is like. Dana Carvey, and I don't know who the other guy was. He looks at the glass. He goes, hey, what does that look like to you? The guy goes, oh, sunshine. No. Look at it. I mean, what does it look like to you? The whole thing about it being a glass of urine. And you got to see the documentary. The way they talk about the show with such reverence, but also identifying how royally they screwed this up and how bad they felt for Dana Carvey, who just left Saturday Night Live. But it's excellent. I never heard of it before.
You mentioned Steve Carell and Steve Colbert.
Yeah.
There's a skit that they do that I've seen that I think got Carell the job on Colbert as a reporter, where they play 2 waiters.
Oh, my God, that's the best.
The waiters who get nauseous.
Who can't get through the thing because
That's right. And they were also
And I just saw
the
Colbert do that
ambiguously
the other
gay
night.
duo.
Oh,
Do you know
that's where
the
that came
ambiguously
from?
gay duo? That
Oh.
started on that, and Colbert and Carell did the voices throughout the run on Saturday Night Live. I didn't know that, so they did it. Yeah, and it was hilarious.
Did you ever see
but-
the live version of that John
Yes,
Hamm?
with John Hamm. Yeah, it's great. This thing is
All right,
great.
good. What's the name of it again for our viewers
It's called
and me?
Too Funny to Fail, The Life and Death of the Dana Carvey Show on Hulu. It was made in
Hulu,
2017. But it was really good. And I'll talk about some other stuff, but I'll start with those two.
Drew, you got anything?
the
What do
la-
you got, Drew?
Well, I won't be mentioning this for a while after this one. Season 5 is casting now, but we did finish season 4 of The Great Pottery Throwdown. I will say it was very satisfying. I don't want to spoil it.
Please
as
don't.
Pleasures and who won.
Yeah.
NPR
Don't
ran
ruin
a
it.
story. I think it was 20 minutes long. I
And
haven't
that
heard
seems
yet
appropriate
about-
that NPR would be running that story.
Well, they said it's about it's the most relaxing show on television.
Oh, wow.
And it is. So StreamQuest has been telling you that for some time. So now we've
You're
got
ahead of the game on
the
that
big
one.
media of NPR behind us. too.
Drew. Good times.
That's right. That's right. I'm looking at my list here. So I took a John recommendation, and I watched a movie that it was on my list as soon as I saw the trailer, and then John, you recommended it and said it was fun, and you were right. I watched Boss Level, the Frank
yeah.
Grillo time loop movie.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was. I mean, I'm a big fan of Frank Grillo and of Naomi Watts, and Will Sasso as a villain was actually really fun.
Yeah. He was good.
Not as fun as Kevin James in Becky, where he's a murderous Nazi, but still fun. And I think it was entertaining. It wasn't as good as my favorite time loop action movies like Edge of Tomorrow and Source Code, but it was good. It was satisfying. It got me at the beginning. I was kind of thinking I might have to turn it off because it has so much voiceover, and that's just a pet peeve of mine. Voiceover has a role to play in different ways, but a lot of times voiceover sounds like you didn't believe in it. Your executives didn't believe in it, so they made you record all this stuff. Right. But I thought it was... it was too much. But I will say Mel Gibson is a really awful villain in the movie. And he dies multiple times horribly. And that's really fun because he is in real life an awful person. I don't think he's bent on destroying the universe or anything. Maybe one Jew at a time. I don't know what he's thinking about these days.
God almighty.
But he's a good villain in the movie, and it was fun, and it was actually as the story unfolds, you learn a little bit more about Frank Grillo's character. It's actually there's some kind of sweet stuff in it, and then
Frank Grillo was great. I thought he was great in that movie. I really enjoyed it.
It's got one of the. I'm sure I've said this before, and I'll say this again, but who can remember what I said on what show at this point? It's really hard to nail an ending. And this movie has a good ending. Yeah, it's the right ending, and it's the kind of ending that it doesn't. It's not like, oh, I want to see a sequel. It just goes. If it kept going, I would totally watch it, and if it stops here, I'm totally satisfied, and that's a nice balance to hit. So that
where's that?
I enjoyed that one.
That one.
That is on Hulu.
That's Hulu.
Another
Yeah.
Hulu.
And by the way, that kid is actually Frank Grillo's son. His son in the movie is actually his son. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a fun one.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. I just shut your brain off movie. I like those now and then, you know. Ralphie?
Well, I have another one. I have another one for you after Ralph tells you. No, I've got to shut your brain off for you. You'll enjoy.
Yeah, well,
it.
I wanted two things. I'll talk about something that I watched, and then I want to talk about the recommendation that Drew made during our show about Godzilla. I'd like three of us to talk about. I think we've all seen it. I know Drew has, obviously. John, you have too. We can talk about that when Drew does his next whatever. But okay, well, here's what I did, and this is not a big deal, but I kind of got. Somehow I was working and I got on YouTube and I somehow came on a clip about Midnight Cowboy, the film Midnight Cowboy.
Oh, John Voight.
John Voight, Dustin Hoffman.
And
I watched this clip. It was a 25th anniversary film about the film. And it got me interested in seeing the film, which I've never seen. I've never seen Midnight Cowboy. I know it was rated X, I think, when it first came out.
Yeah, rated X.
So I decided to stream it. I decided to go on, find out where it is. I have that app, where to watch, because I don't have that laser disc. I would have slapped that in. And this is what I love about streaming. I was able to find it, no problem at all. Rent it for $2 or something. And I loved the film. Where'd you get it? Loved the film. I don't know have you guys seen Midnight Cowboy?
Yeah,
sure.
Oh yeah,
classic.
Yeah, it is, and I was amazed at just how much I felt for the two characters in that film. I mean, I have my feelings about the actors nowadays, but you just throw that away to watch this thing and watch it in its time. Dustin Hoffman was amazing. I thought John Voight was amazing. Yeah. I thought Sylvia Miles, who pops up in Wall Street a couple of times, I can see why when she burst on the scene with this film, people were going, this woman is the one, she's going to be great. I love the party scene that happens, the Andy Warhol type, literally in a studio. I guess it was designed like Andy Warhol. I just found the whole film to be very touching. I've listened to the soundtrack now. I can't get I just love
Everybody's talking.
I love that song. I love there's a harmonica thing that happens at the end, the Midnight Cowboy theme. I'm sorry, I can't specifically name the stuff, but it's just, I found it, I just loved it. And I'm glad I was able to find it and watch it. And that's what I love about what we're doing, how we do it, and why we talk about it, because it just was great to discover that film, which I had never seen. And the fact that an X rating is amazing given what goes on in that film, which is not that.
Yeah. That movie is also one of those movies that's a nice snapshot of the time in which it was made, because it was very contemporary and everything. And and yet it still holds up. Well, what is it? 51 years later, 52
John
years later.
Schlesinger,
so it's very impressive.
I'm sure I've seen a bunch of his films. The use of flashback and flash forward, kind of, because he does scenes about John Voight's past, the backstory, which we all know I hate, but in this case, he did a great job wrapping the film around that. And then some flash forwards about Dustin Hoffman's dream, his character Ratso Rizzo, to go to Florida. And I just thought it was very effective and probably unusual in its time, probably was a little confusing for people. Why are they jumping back and forth? But man, oh man, it works so well. And by the end of it, you know, you're completely wrapped up in the story of these two friends who are complete dirtbags, basically.
Right.
One plays a hustler, the other one's a female.
His name's Ratso Rizzo. You don't get
Ratso
much
Rizzo's
dirt.
the hustler who's just hustling people
Right.
for money. The other guy's hustling women for, you know, sex and money. And again, he's doing all this for $20, right? They're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing film. And you're right, it captures that time. New York City looked grimy as hell. This is when.
Well, I have a little bit of trivia on that movie. That was very, like, I wouldn't say it was avant-garde, but it was definitely cutting edge.
Sure.
You really creative filmmaking at the time. And Schlesinger said in an interview years later that when he made that movie, he said the best way to watch this movie would be on a computer monitor while you're editing something else for work, and that would be the best way to watch it. And
Amazing.
so I think that you were
prescient.
on the revolutionary tip
Very
there
prescient.
as well. I mean, amazing.
I
It's
don't know if
amazing.
you're making fun of me or you're honoring me. I'm
Yeah,
a
a
little
little.
confused right
A
now,
little.
but I understand what you're
Listen,
saying.
the best thing to watch a Laserdisc on is just as far as resolution is probably your phone.
It is.
So
That would make it look the best. There's no doubt about it. All right, well, that gets
no,
us to...
that's a good pick.
We'll
Where
talk
did you
about-
rent it from?
What, sorry? Rent it?
Where did you rent Midnight Cowboy
Prime.
from?
Prime.
Prime. Okay.
Yeah, for $2.99 or something. Gives you 2 days
Yeah,
to
rent
watch
that.
it. Although I watched it in the
That
full.
Midnight
famous
Express,
ad lib
you're all set.
scene with Dustin Hoffman
The cab?
crossing the street.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and
That
I didn't
tells you
realize
that.
how quickly
Hoffman's incredible.
How quickly that happens in the film. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just the use. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep, and we shouldn't. But the use of the flashbacks and the way they made New York look completely grimy, and then when they would go into the Florida scenes, the flash forwards, beautifully lit, exposed. You know, because he was, you know, Florida's healthy. Ratso Rizzo is sick the whole film.
Right.
And all he wants
yeah.
to do is get better, and he sees
Right, and
Florida
the
as
bus
his way
at
to
the
get
end.
better. And his relationship with John Voight. Now I guess they shot some not explicit, but there was possibility that there was going to have a sex scene between those two guys. Schlesinger really wanted to do, and they didn't let him do it. But that I don't know how that would have affected the thing, but I just think they had a beautiful friendship that was just like I said.
That's what I don't think it would have worked. I think the way it worked.
I just
like the
felt
way it
I was
worked.
affected by the film in many ways.
You
and now
don't watch
very
Seinfeld,
moving.
do you, Ralph? You don't watch
No,
Seinfeld, right?
not much.
They did a takeoff of this in an episode where
really?
Kramer's got a bloody nose and him and Jerry are on the bus at the end.
Oh, really?
And he's like this. It's really funny, but
Well,
that scene is so iconic.
They talk about Hoffman. Hoffman's people told him not to do the film because he had just done The Graduate, and he was a huge star coming. You know, his star was rising, and they go, "This is going to kill your career." And he went for it, and you know, he had to meet the director to prove he could look like a dirtbag and do that. And man, was he good.
the opening scene in Tootsie when he's doing all the auditioning.
Yeah,
That was all based on Dustin Hoffman auditioning for things.
Yeah, I bet.
So he wouldn't get up because he was a tomato, can't get up, all that stuff. So
I bet.
he was a guy that always
I
picked
bet he must be a
roles.
total a-hole. when he's
I'm
doing
sure
that
he is,
stuff.
but geniuses like that,
I
and
know,
he
it's
is
a
a
whole
genius
genius
as far as an
versus,
actor
right.
goes. He wasn't ready to rest on his laurels and be the leading man going forward.
Can you imagine
the
when
next
him and-
leading man role he played was Kramer versus Kramer. Everything else was a character.
But can you
Right.
imagine when he and Redford were walking around Washington D.C. doing All the President's
Oh,
Men?
yeah.
Just the like the groupies. Jesus.
Oh yeah.
And you know,
Well-
Hoffman probably writes poems and poetry, right? He's doing all this stuff, and these girls would have no chance at all. Of course, Hoffman had some problems later on the road, but you know, whatever. Anyway, so do you want to talk about the film that you recommended, or do you want to jump in and talk about something else you saw, and then we all can get into the film?
Well, let me just say quickly, this is about how people use streaming in general. You know, the big thing, especially when Netflix first got big, I want to watch that, I'll put it on my queue.
You're right.
So now I, like everybody else, have like 15,000 titles on 7 different queues and all that kind of stuff. I never remember what I want. I have to dig through stuff. But every once in a while, some movie will come along that I go, that looks like trash. I want to watch it, but not right now. So I rented one of them this weekend for 99 cents. It's called Guardians. It's basically it's a Russian movie.
Russian, yeah.
It's a Russian movie that it kind of wants to do the Avengers thing. It doesn't have 5 movies before with the characters, and I will say what makes it look like it's going to be good is that it actually has a character that turns into a bear and uses a chain gun. So like, oh my God, that should be perfect. It cost $5 million, which I learned is 330 million rubles. So that's shocking.
It's a lot of
for a
rubles.
movie that cost $5 million. It certainly looks like it's more than $5 million, but they didn't spend really any of it on the script or how it's paced and stuff. So it's not. It's pretty bad. It's not bad enough to be really good, but it's one of those movies that would drive Ralph completely up the wall, because not only is it a superhero movie, it's a superhero movie that is so poorly paced. Like, something exciting is happening, let's talk about it for 10 minutes, and then something else that's not related will happen. It'll be very exciting, and then I don't know where we're going next, so I'll tell you something that you all should have known already, but now you know it, and it's like an hour and a half that feels like 7 hours. So I can't recommend it.
Sounds like
I'm so
Shin
glad I saw
Godzilla.
it. Well, let's talk about it then. But yeah,
Wait,
Guardians.
before we
Guardians
talk
you can
about
skip.
Godzilla, because that's going to take up some time, I want to say that I finally finished Longmire.
Oh, okay.
And I will
the
say
longest
this.
review in history with this Longmire.
Ralph, I'm telling you, it is so
I've seen
good.
it. I
and
watched it. I just couldn't.
I will say that the last episode, for a character, was probably one of the best ways to end a show that I have seen in a long time. The character, not necessarily the show, but that particular character. The way they ended his arc was great. And, you know, the other thing I'll say, talking about streaming, you could tell Netflix took it over after season 3, and you could tell there was a difference in the tone of the show. The writing was a little bit different. I don't think it was as strong in the final seasons as it was the first 3, but he was great throughout. Lou Diamond Phillips was great. Actually, they were all really, really good. But the ending of it was just one of the best endings. Because we talked last week about endings of shows that were just, I think, Drew, you said they're just not satisfying. This was
Often,
a very
yeah.
very satisfying ending for that particular character. I keep recommending the show. Please see it. It's really good, really good. So anyway,
I can't commit to series. It's nuts. It's this thing I have. I just can't,
Yeah.
unless it's like The Boys for some reason, that kind of thing. Like like I told you guys, I watched The Sopranos original religiously from the frame 1 to last frame, and I just can't commit to another series like that. I gave so much of my life to that series. That
so you're not going to watch the prequels?
I'm going to go to the movie. If it's a movie, it's going to be a one-off film.
No. It's a series. It's going to be a series.
The film, the something in New Jersey?
They're making a prequel, a series.
Oh.
Yeah. You going to watch it?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Huh. Interesting.
All right, but anyway, that's. I just have a tough time. Like I told you guys, if a documentary has more than 3 episodes, I'm like, forget it, I'm out. I like them. I like them.
I don't know. I enjoyed getting invested in these characters and to see you sit there after the third, knowing it's 7 seasons long, and you're only on season 3 or 4. It was kind of neat thinking about, I wonder where this is going to go. Because it's not like when you watch a network show, you don't know if they're even going to be on next year, right? When you're streaming stuff, you know it's 7 seasons. So on the 4th, you got 3 left.
Now, were you doing this before COVID? Were you committing like this before COVID to
No,
these
the only show I binge watched was The Walking Dead. That's the only show I watched like that. There were shows that I watched every week, yeah. Before COVID, but nothing like this.
Yeah, well, I know this is causing you to do this, but would you,
Yes.
when the world opens up again and you're actually starting to work where you're having to travel or whatever you got to do you think you're going to binge like this, that you'll get into a series like that? Like you did 100 and something of Elementary. You just mentioned last
130 episodes.
Oh, Lord.
Probably because what I used to do when I used to travel all the time, I used to watch my DVDs on planes and stuff.
Yeah.
So now I guess I would. I guess I would binge watch more now. It depends on if there are shows to watch. I will, because I'm very picky about what I watch. I don't watch a lot of stuff, but once I get into it, like this Longmire, Rosie has raved about it for 2 years, and I was like, I don't think I really want to watch it.
should
And then
listen
after
to
a
her
few
more,
episodes,
actually. That's
I
that's
thought
just a
the
symptom
lead
of
character
a
was
bigger
great. I
problem.
loved that lead character, the way he played it. I loved it.
So, Drew, just congratulations, by the way. It looks like you got a new job. Is that going to change your viewing?
Thank you.
Is that going to change your viewing habits? Because you watch a lot of stuff.
You do.
You're like the king of watching many things.
I don't know. I'm going to be working a job that's going to be like a regular 40-hour-a-week job. It's not a job that's going to consume 90 or 100 hours a week, like a real American job experience that I don't want, because this is the important work that we're doing, and I don't want to not have time for that.
That's a good point.
I don't know. I mean, Kelly and I,
Changing lives.
we've watched TV together and movies together, forever. And so, the thing is, you miss a series and then you let it stack up for a while, whether it's on streaming or DVDs or whatever. Like, we didn't watch the Gilmore Girls. And then in season 6, I think season 6 was out, and somebody said, you guys are having a tough time. Kelly's dad was sick. You should watch the show. So we ended up falling in love with it and binging it on DVDs. I think we rented them from the library or something because they were free. And then we got some from Netflix or something. So I don't know. I mean, I think it depends on what it is. At this point, a TV series doesn't mean the same thing. Like the Gilmore Girls, like you were saying, there's 7 seasons. I've watched 4. I have 3 left. The Boys, you can watch a whole season and it's basically like a couple of movies in a row.
Right.
And even if they do 5 seasons of The Boys, it's still not going to be the same as watching every season of Elementary, that kind of thing.
Right.
So individual episodes are often longer, especially if you watch a self-indulgent show like Sons of Anarchy or something, which when it's good is very good. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think I follow any rules with it. If I like something, I'll keep watching it. If I don't, I'll just go watch something else.
I was just curious how that might change if you actually, when life opens up again and we have to do,
life opening up doesn't really matter to me because we're homebodies anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I miss going to the movies, but my idea of fun is usually having friends over or going to a friend's house, maybe go to a movie, go to dinner. I'm at home a lot. I like to do stuff at home, so it's not. I mean, I've been training for this quarantine for some time, and so I think it paid off pretty well.
The training went well. So last show, Drew recommended that John and I, we were talking about King Kong versus Godzilla, and it got us off into other Godzilla films and Kong films.
Huge hit, by the way. Huge hit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's done well.
That shows you a lot. It's a good film to see in the movie theater, no question, especially if you're into big things beating each other up. But Drew recommended.
Yeah, that's a succinct description of that movie.
I thought so
That's
too.
good.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Drew recommended Shin Godzilla, I think is the name of the film.
That's right.
Japanese film, and it sort of takes a different approach to the Godzilla. And Drew, why don't you describe it, and then we'll talk about our feelings, how we dealt with it, or what we thought about it.
Well, Shin Godzilla is it's the first movie since the original Godzilla that is nothing to do with the rest of the series. I mean, the concept of a giant monster comes out of the ocean and attacks Japan is the same. But this is a Japan that's never seen a Godzilla movie, never had Godzilla fight other monsters, all that kind of stuff. So it's a totally fresh start, which that in and of itself is interesting. But what's neat about it is that it is definitely a big monster movie a big Godzilla movie to the extent that a lot of the monster effects, almost all of the monster effects are CGI. But the CGI looks like a rubber monster, which is just a creative choice they made. And then a lot of the other stuff is miniatures, like the CGI monster pushing boats through the streets and stuff. Those boats and those streets are actually miniatures. So it's a nice combination of effects, that kind of stuff. But basically you're watching like how Contagion is a real world look story as what would happen if something broke out around the world and competent people were in charge.
Yeah.
This is a movie about what would happen if this really happened to Japan, and what would the Japanese government and the rest of the world do in response. So a lot of it, I'll be honest, a lot of it is satire of the Japanese government that I can relate to, but certainly don't know the details of, and I learned about more after I watched it. But it's a monster movie that's about how real people would respond to this monster, and the monster, the key thing about the monster is it's unstoppable. And it plays with the Godzilla mythos, I think, without disrespecting it, and I just found it just super satisfying. And I'm getting the vibe that you guys didn't.
This, by the way, this was the first ToHo production in, I think, 10 years.
Yeah, and it won Best Picture in Japan. I mean, it's very successful for them.
And ToHo is the one who originally did the original Godzilla. So just
right.
Yeah, no, you read my face wrong. I enjoyed it. It was a tad repetitive, and I guess because there's all. Well, let me just say this: what drove me crazy about all these kind of monster movie films is that, and we mentioned Superman, and I mentioned Godzilla.
Collateral damage.
The collateral damage, all the buildings being torn down and people being killed. This, at least, you're seeing what's going on in people's minds, and you're seeing what's going on with the government and in the boardrooms. If this actually happened, how are we going to get 3 million people out of here? What's going to happen when this, and obviously the cloud, I'm not trying to be funny about that, but the nuclear thing they keep bringing up in this, and how it's still affecting decisions they're making now. The fact that Japan's been the only country that's been, nuked, and it plays a big role in this, right down to a scientist who, the radiation thing with his wife and how that's affecting decisions he's making, to whether they use nukes or not on this thing that's walking through Tokyo and destroying it. So I did like the idea that we're seeing. How would they move? They even mentioned traffic. Traffic's going to be at a standstill. How are we going to get all these people out there? I enjoyed that side of it, and it kind of has the same destruction they all do. Our buildings are falling everywhere, but at least I had the sense that somebody was thinking about that, and they were taking action to prevent more people from getting killed. And I found that interesting take on this. And
when
I was
they
watching,
say we're gonna get 3 million people out of a city, can we do it fast enough? They acknowledge we can't.
Right.
And that is a level of tragedy that relates to the tsunami and earthquake and nuclear disaster that inspired the way they're telling the story, in the first place, where people could not get away from these things.
Now, I was watching the dubbed version, so I think some of the conversation came off as a tad cheesy, and they're overacting anyway, which tends to happen in these films, and I think the dubbing just made the overacting look even worse. But I like that they would cut to the United States, and there's the president's talking about how he's going to try to help these guys. Nobody wants a nuclear option to be an option. They're all fighting against that. They're working as best they can to not make that. And the solution they came up with was fairly interesting. And I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. I mean, yes, it seemed a tad long. I was looking at the timer, going, okay, we got to get to this thing. The effects were a little funky, but I liked the laser beam stuff they were doing off this guy. It was pretty cool. And I didn't know it was a ToHo production, and I didn't know it won a major award.
In fact, they recreated the original logo, the ToHo production logo from the first film at the beginning of it as an homage.
I did not know.
I mean, this movie was a huge hit in Japan and did well around the world. I'm not sure how I missed it. I guess because I'm not like a huge Godzilla movie guy, but I just thought this was great.
Well, and it ends with, I mean, spoiler alert, but this, it's Godzilla still in the city as a reminder. And,
nuclear weapons don't go away. Earthquakes and nuclear power disasters don't go away. That's right.
Anyway, John, what do you think?
And the body, the skulls on the skeletons on the tail at the very end too.
That's the other thing. This Godzilla evolves throughout the movie.
Yeah.
They use the word evolution. It really should be mutation, I guess. But essentially, it goes through 4 forms across the movie. And then what you see at the end, the last shot of the movie, what you're talking about with the tail, has these sort of human monster mixed figures. That's basically the 5th form that they stopped. Right. So that's even more horrible, because then this monster that's unstoppable becomes a plague of parasites that can get down on the city streets, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it was very powerful.
Yeah.
I like this movie. I like I love the fact that if you listen to the music, a lot of the music they used was from the original Godzilla movie, which I really like. I will say this, Drew, when that first iteration of the monster was crawling through the streets with those giant eyes, I was like, what the Christ am I watching? Because I was like, oh, this is going to be stupid. And frankly, I was pissed off. I'm going, why did Drew think I would like this? Because it looks so stupid, And then I was like, okay, because that's a new thing. They've never done the evolution part before. So I did like that. And the final version of him, and you're right, the CGI is made to look like there's a guy in a rubber suit. They wanted it purposely to do that. But then they extended it, with the atomic breath and the thing going out the tail, the thing going out the fins. First of all, I disagree with Ralph on the overacting. I did not find this movie overacted. In fact, I thought the acting was almost a little too reserved for what everyone was going through. I thought the special effects were great. My favorite scenes with the special effects where they would be way far away and you see the entire cityscape, and over in the left-hand corner you see Godzilla as opposed to real close. I thought that was really neat. And they did a couple of things where the camera, I think it was with the subway when it went under him, the camera is pointing up and you see underneath Godzilla. I thought that was really cool the way they did that.
Yeah, they did a lot of cool...
problem...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say a lot of cool tricks, like the train bombs where they launched all the trains at them. There's some really clever things that they did.
Yeah.
Just general ideas of how to go at this. And the special effects they used to make, like you're saying, what we're viewing. And the buildings getting chopped with the laser. They did the same thing in this, like they did in the King Kong versus Godzilla. I just felt it had more stakes.
But it had a different look. It had a much more realistic look.
Yeah, it felt real, sure.
Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
Right.
And my only issue was, I look, this whole thing was a satire on bureaucracy, obviously, because every time a decision had to be made, it went through 5 different people before the decision was made. I get what they were doing. I just thought that's the part where, we always talk about at certain points in movies you phase out a little bit. They were doing so much of that I kind of phased out at certain points. It's when they got back to the monster and what was happening with that I really liked this. And the shots when he's coming out of the water, I thought the effects were fantastic. The music was great. And I think they really did a nice job in tribute to the original Godzilla and still managing to reboot it in a way that I found interesting. Again, the boardroom stuff, I didn't mind it because, to your point, Drew, this is what would happen if something like this were to happen, right? Yeah. This is how it would be gone after. It was just too much of it. That's the only thing I didn't like about it, and it went on a little too long. But I would recommend, and I saw the Japanese version, by the way. I did not see the dub version, so I'm sure some of the lines had different meanings in the American version than it did in this one.
I think that would definitely affect your perception of the acting, and I think, like you said, that it's a movie about the bureaucracy, and I mean I loved that stuff because that felt so real.
Yeah.
And the way that it was shot and the idea like, well, we have to have a meeting, and then most of the people finish their meeting, go to the next room with the same people and have a meeting. And apparently that's a very clever, accurate satire of Japanese business culture, Japanese government culture, all that kind of stuff.
That's what I mean. And
I love that they kept throwing the names and everybody's titles up.
Right.
Like they show the guy in the tank and they're like, Lieutenant Colonel, blah, blah, blah. You never see him again. Why do we need to know that? Because everybody has a position. Everybody has a role. And I especially liked Yaguchi, who basically becomes the hero of the movie and leads the effort against Godzilla. They constantly throw his name up to identify him. And you're like, why am I being, because he's got another bigger title every single time that you see him. Now he's the director of the program to counter the beast, all that kind of stuff. Then he's, Minister of Defense and like all this crazy stuff. And I thought the other part of the movie that was really powerful, and I saw some of it and I recognized some of it, but I'm not Japanese. I didn't live through it. The imagery, if you Google 2011 Japan tsunami, and you look on YouTube and look at videos, the flow of water through the streets and the debris and the cars and all that stuff, that's exactly the same image. At the end of the movie, when they're trying to spray the coagulant into his mouth, those cranes holding up those big lines and spraying, that looks like what they had set up at the Fukushima reactor trying to keep it from completely exploding. Literally cranes with pumps aimed down there. So we talked about it last time, like 9/11 imagery. This is right to the heart of the experience of the people of Japan when they had this. I think 15,000 people died. It was, basically the worst nuclear disaster. It affects the whole world, all this kind of stuff. And I will say one thing that I mentioned last time is that I love a control room movie. When you win, everybody starts screaming and cheering. This movie was so Japanese. They're all outside, they're watching it, and then they win, silence. And Godzilla freezes, and they're just like,
dead silence. They cut, everybody. And it was like, I'm waiting.
Oh, it's amazing.
I was literally waiting for the cheers, like the Apollo 13 thing, right? Where everybody. Oh, the other movie, because I watched Marooned, which is this 1960-something movie. It had the same thing where these 3 guys get marooned in space, but they have that control room scene where they're all, So I came off that watching this, going, wait, I don't hear anything. They're just,
It's funny.
So
I think this movie did the best job of showing the aftermath of an attack.
Yeah.
Of something that scale. That's something I've never seen before. Like when he was standing there in front of the rubble and just staring out at it, that's something I haven't seen before.
That's what I mean. That's what I enjoyed.
So that I did like that.
I enjoyed the consequences.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Or those guys having to deal with having to deal with the consequences.
What I didn't like was when the Prime Minister and 7 cabinet members got killed, and the only line that referred to it was, "We don't know what happened to them." I thought that was kind
Well,
of
except that you are in the crisis of all crises, and there's a mechanism in place. Okay, well, you're in charge now. Then the Minister of Agriculture, I think, becomes the Prime Minister, but he knows I'm not really equipped for this.
Right,
but I can't really say that I'm. Like,
I don't know. I would like to see in a
there's so much
conversation.
drama on these
We've
different
lost
levels.
the Prime Minister, but whatever.
Oh, listen, I was into
That would
right
be
down to the
backstory that Ralph would not want to see.
well.
That's right. That's
I was like the tank scenes, the way they shot the tanks.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
thought was really well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
And I
stuff,
wanted
so.
the lead guy to get with the American ambassador.
I couldn't. You guys. I know this is
She
going to
was
sound
hot.
like I'm being a total American jerk. I could I guess they put I could hardly tell who was who. I was trying to figure out who's the. Oh, it's him again. I can't. Ultimately,
that's
what are you
a
talking about? They
deliberate thing.
labeled every time they showed somebody.
well,
they labeled
again, I was kind of watching.
Listen,
it
but John, they
did.
deliberately. There are scenes where they put a lot of text on the screen,
Yeah.
and you do not have time to read it, and that's on purpose.
Right.
Is
I
that
mean,
in the
that's
American
whole
version
idea.
too? Do they do the same thing in the American version?
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah, it was popping up all over the place.
It's all sorts of data, and
Right
then,
down
and
to
then
the president
even
or
when
the-
there's clever shots and stuff like that, like they're passing the laptop around,
Yeah.
and the camera's inside the laptop
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. You don't really know what you're looking at, and they figure out origami.
they're going, look
and
at all
those
this
things.
stuff.
But it
I've
doesn't.
solved the
It
problem.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the whole idea is it's an overwhelming thing, and you aren't going to be the one person that's omniscient and watches the movie and knows how to defeat Godzilla, because nobody is.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're just like the people in the movie.
Yeah.
And so,
Well,
I
Ralph, was
just
it
found
like
that
the
very
old
satisfying.
Godzilla movies where they only had two people doing all the voices? Or were there more than two voices?
No, it was well done. There's no question.
Because George Takei from Star Trek was one of the three men who dubbed the voices on the original Godzilla
wow.
for the American version.
No, I thought it was fine.
my.
Listen, the last movie we did on one of them in Movie Strange was.
Oh, you can't keep the show straight, but which show?
Movie Strange. We did Hero Trio, which
There
is
you
another
go.
Japan.
Show the logo, Ralph.
China, but
That's Chinese. Yeah.
Chinese. I wanted to. I purposely wanted I thought it was a better film with the American voices in there. I just thought it added to the kitsch of that film. This one, I think it took away. I wish I had seen the subtitles. Because I felt a little bit like, ugh. But that's where the overacting thing came, because the way
Yeah, that could be.
the
Yeah,
way
that
the
could be,
voices were
Ralph.
I think
not
so.
working
Yeah.
with what was going on.
The voices could have been
but
over.
I didn't, honestly,
over-
for me, it was about
overboard.
the mechanics of how you get all these people out of there. And they actually showed
Yeah.
a traffic jam, which is the stuff, like
Right.
I told you, I think about as I'm watching the other ones. I'm like, Jesus, what's going on on the highways? And this kind of breaks that down. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and it looked good too. Even though the monster was purposely rubberized or whatever, I just felt. And they did the one Godzilla scream at one point. He opens his mouth and does the yell. I think it was only done once in there. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but anyway,
They
well,
did
I
use
thought it was
the
great.
original-
It was
They
a good
did use
recommendation.
the original roar from the first movie.
I think
too.
that's what it was.
So that was interesting.
The music, like you said, the music is great. The new stuff
Yeah.
and the Akira Ufube original themes from all these different movies, and Ghidorah and Astro Invasion, the Astro Monster. Like, it's just great.
Yeah,
it's a great
so
soundtrack.
good recommendation.
And we were able to stream it. That's the beauty of streaming.
Yep.
That's what we're saying.
I
That's
love
the
it.
point. Okay, we
And
can.
if
that's
you
a
rent it
strong
on
stream.
Amazon, you
weak
can
stream.
rent it with the Shin Godzilla, where it's just called Shin Godzilla, and that's the American dub, or Shin Godzilla Japanese version, and that's a different one to rent.
I would
So,
recommend that one.
Yeah, I didn't do
I
that.
would too.
went
I would
right for
recommend the
yeah.
original language, but
Yeah.
some people don't want to read the subtitles. I think that that's
Yeah.
a personal thing. If you can't watch the movie and focus on it like that.
I think I
That
would.
goes
I thought
by.
it'd
You
be
know,
improved.
after about 5 minutes, you get so used to it that you don't even register that you're reading.
Well, I tell
instead
you
of
what I'm going to
listening.
do. I'm going to, when I get off this, I'm going to go watch Boss Level.
Oh,
And
It's
then
fun.
I'm going to check out the other one.
I don't know if you'll
Too
like it,
Funny to
Ralph. A
Fail.
lot of collateral damage.
I hate to
You
admit this. I love Mel Gibson.
Yeah, but it resets.
Yeah,
He's
sure.
excellent in it. He's excellent in it. He is. He's good.
And that Frank Grillo's good, too. I do enjoy
He's
enjoy
really
him
good.
A tad, so.
Very
All right, guys,
likable
I think
guy.
that was a lively discussion.
Yeah, very good. Good show.
Maybe we'll dub this and make it sound even better. We put some.
I don't want. Yeah, just don't make it overly dramatic.
I'm going to
you know
find
what
a
I
good
mean, Ralph?
voice for you.
Well, I want to give you a little preview. I'm not really ready to talk about it this week because I have to think about it more, and I've only watched one episode. But Amazon premiered a new show called Them. I didn't realize it's basically going to be a horror anthology show like American Horror Story. So technically, it's called Them on Amazon, but this season is called Them Covenant, and it's Lena Waithe, who's written a lot of interesting stuff. It's basically a horror anthology series about the experience of being black in America. So the first season is about a family moving to California from the South in 1950 and moving into a neighborhood where the covenants still exist and say, Negro people, Negro blood can't buy it, sort of stuff. And so it's both a story about the horror of being subject to what these people were subject to, but there's also some supernatural stuff. And it's just as far as horror goes, it's actually really intense. And it's also, again, I'll see where it goes, but it's also very clever. And it's already got me to go out and watch a couple of other things. Like I watched today, actually, I watched I Am Not Your Negro, the documentary about James Baldwin, which is fascinating. So I'll talk about that stuff more next week. But them. Definitely worth checking out so far.
And that's Amazon Prime?
Amazon Prime, yeah.
Don't confuse it with Them about the giant ants.
That's the movie.
Also a fine film, but a little different.
Excellent movie. James Arness, James Whitmore. Great movie.
Is this produced by the guy who did, what's his name? He did Get Out, that guy?
No, I don't think it's a Jordan Peele show.
Okay, because the ad, I saw the ad for this, or the picture, and it looked like the other movie he did called Us or whatever, the second one.
Yeah, no, it's the little girl that's the daughter in Us, that actress. She's very good in Us. She's the daughter of the family in this one.
Okay.
And she's a very good actress. And I can't say how much it's connected yet because I don't know, but it's Lovecraft Country, which was on HBO, was another look at history through the genre lens of horror, of being black in America. And like the idea is, if you are living in America and you're black, there are already horrors to deal with. I guess you can probably also handle Cthulhu type of monsters too, because every day is full of horror. And this, I think, is on a similar wavelength.
All right, well,
I like Lovecraft Country a lot, actually, so I'm really curious to see how it goes.
Sounds good. See what happens. I got to find some more old movies to watch and rediscover or discover for the first time. So this is good. Good stuff. All right?
Yep.
All right, guys.
Awesome.
Have a safe, good week. I'm getting vaccinated this week, so that's exciting.
Oh, you are? Good for you. And you got a wedding this week, right?
I have a wedding to go to.
Your son, Max.
My oldest son is
very
exciting.
Mazel tov.
He's married. He's having the ceremony, so it's a little redundant, but it's awesome.
That's all right. Hey,
got a lot of people coming in.
They paid for the place, right? They want to have it.
Yep. It's going to be a blast.
Good for them.
Enjoy it.
That should be fun.
We will. All right. Thank you, and have a good week, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Hey, everyone, keep a strong stream.
Yep. Keep streaming.
Like and subscribe.
Oh, that's right.